Hey all, so we're into off-season war, and I'm basically testing out how this new tactic works. And in this first video, I am primarily testing it out by completely avoiding it. You can see that two of my three champions here have the Defiance tag. I'm not showing you the first two fights because both of the defenders had full recoil tree on. The poison did most of the work. There was a bad input error in the second fight, which is why Masacre's health looks like that, but it is what it is. Neither of them really demonstrated anything. So we're going to start with this Jabari fight. This is a reworked node. It no longer has Bubble Shield, but it now also has Right Back at It, like Node 2, and it now has Aggression Prowess. So really do not want to get hit by a special. The Jabari placement, if it was intentional, given that this is off season, probably based on the fact that if you send her into her hunt mode, I don't know what happened there, but if you send her into her hunt mode, she removes your ability to dex, and then if you mess up the special 1 dex or end up blocking it when she has a ton of prowess, it could get kind of ugly and kill you very quickly. However, using Magneto House of X here, as with anyone else who gains prowess throughout the fight, is going to keep her out of the hunt, and so we just do not need to worry about that part. The aggression prowess means that if we get hit, bad things happen, but we're getting willpower healing from that ensnare debuff, and this just becomes really, really simple because we're not relying on debuffs. We're just relying on our passive stun to knock her down, and then just hitting her while the Fury is up and doing plenty of damage, turning off everything that makes Jabari scary. So I would feel extremely comfortable with that in season, and actually more comfortable than I used to with Bubble Shield. I don't know. I feel like the new node is perhaps easier, but also maybe a little more interesting. I've just never really enjoyed Bubble Shield. I don't know how to feel about that one yet. We'll kind of see how that evolves. So then this is node 24, the EMP modification, which punishes you for gaining buffs by shocking you when the defender throws specials. But we have the Defiance tag, so we're not going to be gaining any buffs, so no shocks. So then it just basically becomes Aspect of Evolution, Bubble Shield, Ragnarok, or Hulk Ragnarok, which is not very dangerous because like he is going to get more annoying throughout this. We are going to take some Bubble Shield, and if I remember correctly, in a few places that I'd rather not have blocked at all, just kind of worked that way. But he isn't going to gain too many bars of power, and Aspect of Evolution isn't going to get too bad because this is Masacre with class advantage, and we're just doing tons of damage. I definitely didn't need to block that hit there. Now, kind of characteristically of the AI lately, he does completely wait out our ignited, and so we have to start over from scratch. But that doesn't really matter. We get some extra deep wounds damage here. The bleeds are ticking away. We don't even have to ignite again. I think we just throw the extra special 1 here, and actually we don't even get to the special 1. So yeah, Masacre with class advantage hits plenty hard. Very, very easy fight now. So then we move on to Civil Warrior. Unstoppable armor is no longer a problem. So basically this node just says use a bleed immune that isn't a robot unless that robot is Nebula, right? So we use House of X here. He's going to turn off some stuff, not a lot. Doesn't really matter. He's not going to take any bleed damage because he is fully immune. Regular Magneto, even if you had all of the possible points in Coagulate, this would probably still not be a safe fight because it would be so many bleeds, and they're enhanced beyond his ability to be resistant to it. But House of X is fully immune, no problems. This just becomes hit them until they fall over, basically. So we got that nice long armor break on. Because he was armor broken when we threw the special 2, we got those 2 degens instead of just 1, doing some good damage over time. If this were in the season and we had thrown on mutant power back boosts, we probably would have been pretty close to another special 2 after that crit. Then we would have been able to throw that and get another 2 degens, and the fight probably would have been over by about now. Obviously, we are not in season, so that didn't happen, so we just see, does this crit? It does a fair amount of damage, but we only get one degen, so then we just finish it off with the special one. He's not Red Magneto, but for a fight like this, he's actually better, and he does plenty of damage to most metal defenders. So this is a fight where Red Magneto would be better, because we're going to take a fair amount of shock damage. We just are. House of X is not resistant to shock debuffs, so definitely worse off here, but he can still get through this. He does have the ability accuracy reduction. He is going to be able to place a nice long armor break here, which is going to help our damage. For those who have never played House of X before, basically what you want to do is you want to throw 3 heavies, but you don't have to charge them. Each heavy gives you a very long, stronger than normal prowess, and then you can gain smaller ones just by landing or taking hits, hopefully just by landing hits, and then you want to throw your specials with a lot of prowess because the effects last longer. Now, I could have 1 fewer shock on me right now if I had not hit into his block, so that was a mistake. That is definitely making this fight look worse than it could. Not an ideal fight in season. You would probably want to use like a regen boost to make sure you didn't hit his block, maybe power back as well to speed it up, but safe enough. Then we move on to this Mojo on Buffet Chitinous Thorns. Mojo doesn't have any armor ups, so we don't need a bleed immune. All we need is a Defiance champion. Not that Vorloki would ever place this in season, but it's interesting to test this out, right? So I am just going to play Strike Counter. I'm landing some extra parries here at the beginning to give myself some extra power from them. And then I'm just going to throw this special one on time. My aim here is to play the node perfectly and never trigger a suppression, because then this is just Killmonger spamming special ones and hitting Mojo until he dies. Now, if I can avoid Mojo getting too high in prompts, I will, only because if I somehow mess up and eat a special 2, having him at a lower number of followers makes the degen not quite as dangerous. But it's not really a priority, because he can't place that hater debuff, or sorry, that hater buff on us and cause problems that way. So I did get caught on the dash back there. That's unfortunate, but Killmonger can take a few hits, and it actually gave us more power, so we are going to have an edge on Strike Counter for the rest of the fight. I am going to do my best to maintain that, going all the way down to only 1 remaining on each of the different basic attacks before we throw our special one, but that's just for emergencies. I do think it makes these fights a little bit safer. I'll often see people go in and they'll power start, right? And that means that they'll have access to their first special one. And they'll go through the rotation once, they'll, get low on each of the counters. Then they'll throw their special one, and then they'll throw like a single combo and immediately throw their second special one, almost entirely wasting the advantage they built up. So when you're on these nodes and you're actually trying to play them, don't do that. But not the fastest fight in the world. Mojo has a fair amount of health, but between Reverb and True Strike, got it down pretty quickly and extremely safely. Could have also done that fight with Masacre. I thought about it, but I knew that I was going to be taking these next 2 minis at least with him, and just decided to use Killmonger to save myself using any more potions in the off-season. So right here, this Man-Thing on Safeguard, that part is going to be really easy. We don't have to worry about Safeguard because Masacre does a ton of damage over time. We don't have to worry about Man-Thing poisoning us or armor breaking us, because that only happens if he places buffs on us, which Defiance turns off. But the reason that I probably would not send this particular fight in season unless absolutely forced to, unlike some of these others I've taken, is that once we get Man-Thing below 50%, whenever he throws a special, he's going to get a fairly long regeneration buff, which on this node sends him unblockable. And so we're just going to play around that unblockable. It's going to be fine. We're going to block and then dash to bait heavies. We're going to intercept him where we have to. We're going to try and push to the special 2 so that things are easier. And we spend less time with the unblockable up. But he is unblockable, and that makes this less than a perfect fight. Not the end of the world, because we are still doing tons of damage, and Despair is mitigating the healing he's getting, but yeah, I don't think that I would send this in season. This is more of a, hey, cool, Masacre with Defiance works for Man-Thing in general test, rather than this is what I would send for this placement. So there he goes, plenty of Incinerate. He doesn't go for the backdraft there, but we're careful with it and we just wait him out. So on this next one, you'll notice that the aspect ratio has changed, and that's because I played this on my phone. I don't normally do that. I feel like I play better on my iPad because my thumbs are taking up less of the overall real estate, and I just play cleaner. But, you know, it's off-season, we had brunch plans, this made more sense this time. But basic plan here is to go into Ignited, because then applying Incinerates is going to turn off the Stunning Reflection shield, and we'll actually be able to parry Dragon Man, both removing his power charge and allowing us to take advantage of stun vulnerability to get in some extra damage in those stuns. See right here, that actually juices up the one Incinerate that we landed during the stun. We do still need to go ahead and bait specials because he is going to have that power charge in places, but we don't have to worry as much about it because Defiance means there's no Mystic Dispersion, and actually applying Incinerates means that we can, like I said, safely turn off the stun shield. So right there we countered that special with a heavy, because as long as there's an Incinerate on the opponent, then Masacre goes back into ignition faster with his heavy. I threw that special 2 there hoping that the opponent would block. It's kind of a Hulkbuster style gamble where you pause for a second after your combo, hope they block, and then you can throw the special into their block. It works a lot of the times, didn't work there, still did an okay amount of damage, and thankfully he didn't go red on us. I do think that's a good counter. In season, I would probably use an invulnerability boost, or maybe even like a Petrify pre-fight from Mr. Fantastic, but it definitely works, and I would rather use Masacre there than somebody like, say, Killmonger, who would have to basically rely on tanking the special 3s and waiting out the unstoppable. So next up we have Peni, and I was thinking a little bit about whether I should take this or not, because I was worried about brute force. Like, I don't have class advantage here, I am going to take the full brunt of it. But ultimately what I decided to do was just break the shield by hitting into her block and just land one hit at a time. You'll notice already I'm less comfortable on the phone than on the iPad, but I'm landing one hit at a time to keep brute force off. We are taking some damage, but the shield is down, and we can do a ton of damage just by hitting into her while ignited, because even though she's Incinerate immune, Masacre punishes Incinerate immunity. He also has great block proficiency, so that special 2 didn't hurt that badly. We're saving our special 2 to throw it perfectly into the sync shield and completely remove it. Masacre also has that ability where if he throws the special 2 into block, he gets a short window where he causes attacks to miss right after it, so you don't get wrecked for doing so. So now we're just going to try and do exactly that again. We block the special 2 because we have excellent block proficiency. We wait out the shield there. I do end up breaking it, but unfortunately because I got caught on that dash back, she doesn't come in and I can't get brute force off, and so I died to that. But I think if I'd been on my iPad for this one, if I'd been more in charge of the controls and I hadn't got caught by those 2 combos on dashbacks, that actually would have worked better than almost any other counter I've seen for that fight that isn't Corvus Glaive with at least 2 or 3 charges. Which is really impressive for an attacker that almost nobody brings to war. You saw me use Killmonger and Mr. Fantastic a lot last season because Defiance is an excellent tactic that really allows them to be more flexible. But Mystic Dispersion, I think, is just going to kick that into overdrive and not just let me, but actively reward me for bringing characters like Masacre or Hawkeye or maybe even Joe Fixit to war, leaning on the tag even more. And I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed this particular off-season war. Masacre is one of my favorite characters, and feeling like he's going to be relevant this season makes me very happy. So I hope y'all also enjoyed this one. Look forward to the next one. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.